Good afternoon. Welcome. Hi, welcome to Alta Live. I'm going to wait just a moment while our participants fill in to our Zoom room. Welcome, everyone. If you are here for a literary look at last-minute gift ideas, great books to give everyone on your Christmas list, holiday list, whatever, or New Year list. Let's give New Year's gifts this year. You're in the right place. We are going to save the holidays and New Year's with a group of literary experts that I'm so excited to welcome. So while everyone fills in, I'm going to just briefly say hi. Thank you for joining us for Alta Live. This is the digital series we do here at Alta Journal. I'm so excited to welcome today's guests, book buyers Sherry Galentine from Vroman's Bookstore in Pasadena, Sarah High from bookshop.org, and Louisa Smith from Book Passage in Corte Madera. These three literary experts will share their book suggestions for last-minute gifts to give friends and family in a variety of categories, all of whom I personally find challenging to shop for. So perhaps you're in the same position. First, brief housekeeping. Again, this is the digital event series we do at Alta Journal. I'm Beth Spotswood. I'm Alta's digital editor. If you're unfamiliar with Alta, we are an award-winning quarterly magazine focused on California and the West. If you are a book enthusiast, we host a monthly California book club featuring Zoom conversations like this with some of your favorite authors like Walter Mosley. We've got an exciting lineup coming in the new year as well. So we've had Tommy Orange, we've had rad people, and we'll continue to do so. So check that out. There is a Q&A button at the bottom of our video screen. Please use that to ask any questions you might have for Sherry, Sarah, and Louisa. And then also there's the chat. I thought we might get the chat going. Please tell us where you are Zooming in from. I am here in Novato, California, about 15 minutes north of Book Passage. So we'll start with you, Louisa. Where are you zooming in from today?
I'm actually zooming in from Los Altos, California, down by Palo Alto. So a little bit further away from my Corte Madera store and our San Francisco store, but happy to be here. Thank you so much, Beth.
Sherry, where are you today?
I'm in Pasadena. It's about 15 miles from downtown LA in Southern California.
Woohoo. And then Sarah, you're bookshop.org, which is an online, why don't you let us know where you are and then tell us what bookshop.org is for anyone who might not know.
Sure. Thank you, Beth, for letting me be here. I'm the only East Coaster on the call. So I'm zooming in today from Sewanee, Georgia, where I'm from originally, but most of the Bookshop team is based in Brooklyn, New York, which is where I live. And Bookshop is an e-commerce platform designed to help indie bookstores sell more books online. So if you don't have a way to sell books online and you're an indie bookstore, please email me and we'll get you all set up. And I'm really excited to be on the call today with some stellar book people.
So each of these great booksellers is part of Alta's Bookstore Partners, and it's just an absolute pleasure to partner with them. One of the reasons that is because Vroman's, Book Passage, and Bookshop are in possession of the smartest people when it comes to books, including these three panelists today. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask for their picks, their book picks, in a variety of categories. Those categories will be, drumroll please, again, I've made these up. What do you get the reader who's already read everything? What do you buy a little kid? Suddenly Susie had a kid and you don't know what to get them for Christmas. This is the choice. For teenagers, home cooks, coworkers. Sorry, Team Alta, I have no idea what to get you. Fiction fans and history buffs. So we're going to do a little bit of a roundtable discussion here, going clockwise, at least from my perspective. Louisa, kick us off with what do you get the person who's already read everything?
What a great question, because a lot of the people at the store coming in have read everything. You don't know what they've read. What I'm suggesting for everybody, what I think is the book I'm hoping people will get me, is the New York Times book review, 125 years of reviews. This is more than just talking about great books that they've reviewed. This is a historical document. It has incredible sort of surveys, reviews, essays that have happened over the last 25 years, a couple of them that I just loved, that were super fun to read. You have a essay on Arthur Conan Doyle at home. This is what he was like at home here, and a whole essay on it. You have, here's another one I love. Oh, the brouhaha over Edith Wharton's House of Mirth. And then all the way up to the very famous Margaret Atwood review of Beloved. These are books that you loved, the great reviews by authors that you recognize reviewing them, but also there's these really wonderful like pans of books that have become classics. It's really fun. It's fun as a historical document, and it's really fun for any book lover. So it's a wonderful gift.
Love it. Sherry.
I have Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. It's not her first novel. I think this is her fourth. I loved it. The story is of Jeannie and Julius, their siblings, and they're 51-year-old twins, and they still live with their mother. And they're sort of hermit-like. They're very insular, and they have this very odd life, and they have sort of this belief of why they're living this way. And then their mom suddenly passes away. And over the course of the book, all these ideas of who they were, why they lived the way they do, all slowly unravel. And it's really, I thought, a heartwarming and good story, because they're really good people, but everybody has issues, and there's still a loving family. And I was really surprised through this book. There's some twists and turns you don't see coming. And I mean, this book is certainly sold, but it hasn't been a huge bestseller. And that's why I would say, for those who've read everything, they might not have gotten to Unsettled Ground yet.
Love it. All right. Sarah, hit us with the bookshop array.
Sorry if you can hear my mom's dog barking in the background. So I'm at my mom's house. I don't have all my, hundreds of books with me. But the two I'm going to recommend are George Saunders' A Swim in a Pond in the Rain, because I love George Saunders. This came out, I think, 2 years ago now. I'm so sorry, he's barking.
That's okay.
And the other one I'll recommend is All Day I Dream About Sirens, which came from Coach House Press. It's poetry, and it's really fun and weird. And a lot of people I know who are literary freaks have not read it.
I love it. I should have asked for a book recommendation for the pet owner. Oh, well, next year, we'll do that one. Okay, little kids. This is my category, much like the barking dog at Sarah's house yesterday. These three ladies had to put up with my 3-year-olds going ballistic during our rehearsal. So what should we get a little kid? Louisa.
Are we starting with me? I know that Sherry has one of my favorite authors on there. I have very firm feelings about little kids' books, which is that since you are going to have to read them about 100 zillion times, they're really for the parents, and they should either be fun to read or gorgeous, or hopefully both. I still can word for word. I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I can word for word do Hello Little Fish still. So you're stuck with whatever book you do. And the one that I think is gorgeous, the one that you will not be embarrassed if you haven't cleaned up and people come over and it's still out, is this book, Trees. Absolutely beautiful. It's a Northern California artist. It's a wonderful poetic read about all the things that nature gives you and you discover, but it's also these, I mean, I can't even tell you how beautiful this is. This is like a coffee table book for kids. Is that a thing? Like every single page is gorgeous. If you've lived in Northern California, you'll recognize this. So a beautiful, beautiful gift, one that they'll love for a long time and love to discover all the things in it. The writing's beautiful, the illustrations. That would be my big pick for this season.
Gorgeous. I love that. All right, Sherry, kids pick.
I picked Woodland Dance by Sandra Boynton. Always popular, Sandra Boynton, and she never disappoints. And this is her newest, and it is a sweet little book about animals having a woodland dance in the middle of the night. They all come out and they play music and they dance. And of course, The verse is clever. Her illustrations are charming. You know, what everyone loves about Sandra Boynton. Little board book. I think that this would make a great gift for the parents, and the kids are going to love to listen to it over and over and memorize the book themselves. So a sure hit with this one.
All right, adding to my list. Sarah.
So I'll give 2 this time again. Of course, I don't have as much access to children's books as I did when I was a bookseller a couple of years ago, but being in the kids section was my favorite because I could just, when was in the store, I could just browse through all the beautiful kids books. So the 2 that I think are the best to give this holiday season, that I think are a little more nuanced, and your, kids book owner might not have these, are Grumpy Pants by Claire Messer. It's a really cute picture book about how to cheer up a little kid when they're having a really hard day, which I think, because of these really unprecedented times, we might be a little grumpier. So I think this one was a great one. Again, Grumpy Pants, Claire Messer. And then the other one, which was also for a kind of moodier kid if they're feeling lonely or sad. This one's called Vivaldi by Helge Torvand. And it's a beautiful little board book from a small press, and it features a little black cat named Vivaldi, and I have a black cat, so I'm partial to black cats. And this helps kids who feel alone. So those are 2 that I recommend.
Ah, lovely. Okay, Louisa, we're going to move on from little kids book and enter the world of teenagers. What do we get a teenager?
Well, I know that when I was a teenager, my favorite part of Christmas morning was, because I unwrapped faster than everybody else, was being able to read the books that I'd been given, which maybe gave a little hint at what my career path was going to be as an adult. But I absolutely loved being able to read, especially if I had a graphic novel. So Calvin and Hobbes, still a huge hit with teens these days, but I'm going to talk about a literary graphic novel that just blew my socks off. I love this. Everybody on staff loved this book. It is really just such a treasure. Magic Fish is the story of a Vietnamese boy who is a first generation American and trying to figure out how to come out to his family. And it's an immigration story, it's a coming of age story, and interwoven between that are these classic Vietnamese tales. It's beautifully illustrated. It's really interesting. It has a wonderful sort of woven arc of a story. It's tender, it's moving, it's magical. It's a really wonderful book. It has been a huge hit with all of our teen readers at the store, and I recommend it for both boys and girls.
Whoa. Okay. Sherry, teens.
I've got 52 YA books every book lover should read. This is a journal put out by the American Library Association. And what's really great about this is it starts teens keeping a book journal. I mean, I've had a book journal for 22 years and I love going back through it. So I think this is a cool thing to start a teen doing. And in the front, it has a place for you to write in all your favorite all-time books, and then a current reading log. And then here are the 52 books. And then you have a page for all your notes that you can keep track of what you think. And the books that are suggested are both contemporary and there's some older books. And so I think this is a wonderful gift, and it's $12.99. And you can skim through here and pair it with 1 or 2 of the suggested reading. And I think that is a really great gift, and it can spark some inspiration for years to come.
So cool. All right, Sarah, teens.
I love those too. I feel like YA has such an amazing offering for people who are adults and also teens. So in terms of the recs I really love for teenagers or YA today, I would say Love is a Revolution, which was a really big seller. I believe it came out earlier this year by Renee Watson. Seems really, really amazing. I've heard really good things from my BPL, Brooklyn Public Library librarian, who I asked about for this question. So that was, again, Love is a Revolution. I think that would be great. And then Home is Not a Country. This is another one that my colleague recommended, who is a bookseller, and that one is by Safia Elio. And those are both really both by people of color, both I think really taking teenagers to the territory of YA. That's just, again, really, really amazing. I feel like more genres should be emulating what YA is doing today, which is, publishing more people of color and getting more teens to read, much more diverse backgrounds and stories that we've maybe ever read or heard about. So those are my 2 recommendations.
That's such an interesting observation about YA too. Okay, who is next on our list of super complicated people to buy for? Oh, here we go. The Home Cook.
The home.
The Home Cook, Louisa.
Like many of you probably, I fall in love with big, gorgeous books that you can cook from. But the truth of the matter is, I shouldn't say that word. I mess up a lot in the kitchen and trying to recreate those dishes. So there's a new trend that I'm absolutely loving, which is more trying to make these really elevated chefs writing these cookbooks for the home cook. There's 2 that I want to talk about really briefly today. Ottolenghi. This is the Ottolenghi you know and love that has those big, gorgeous vegetable forward cookbooks, plenty and flavor, and they have those strong international flavors. They have really interesting ingredients that maybe you can't find and will take you a lot of time to cook from. Highly recommend it, but maybe a bit of a challenge cookbook. He is now doing this whole thing of test kitchens. This is how to make all those full flavored foods with the stuff that's on your shelf right now, with that frozen vegetable packet, with the spices that are already in your shelf. And it's like flex bound, so it's so you can spill on it, which is what I always do. It still has gorgeous illustrations, but it's just much easier to cook from because you don't have to kill yourself finding those ingredients. So easy on your skill level and easy on your budget, which I love. And then the other one is Cal Peternell's Burnt Toast and Other Disasters. He was a chef at Chez Panisse, so known for making elevated, wonderful food. This is for when you burn the toast. How do you make that cheesy bread pudding from your burnt toast? When you mess up, and you will, and everybody does, which is nice to hear that he does too. How do you recover and what do you make from that? And there's essays in here and stories, as well as wonderful illustrations and food. It is a gorgeous, wonderful gift and a great one for the home cook because you can really relate to what's happening in here and make some delicious food.
I love this. All right, Sherry.
I have Treasures from the Mexican Table by Patti Hinich. I'm sure many of you watch her show on public television. This is her 3rd cookbook, and I do have all 3 of them. I cook out of them. And I think her recipes are approachable. The ingredients are not difficult to find. She walks you through all the recipes with very clear instructions. I find when I get a new cookbook at home and I'm sitting on my couch and I go to get my little stack of Post-it tags and I start tagging pages and pages and pages of things I want to make. And then my copy at home is full of them because there's so many things in this book that I want to make. And there's incredible photos in here of all the recipes. It looks great. There's some good cold weather cooking recipes in here for the season that we're in. And salads, soups, the whole thing. And for anyone who's a fan of Mexican cuisine, cooking or eating Mexican cuisine, this book is for them, and highly recommended.
I want all of these. Okay. Sarah.
Same here, Beth. Oh my gosh, I'm making mental notes. So it's really hard for me to pick cookbooks things for home chefs because I love cooking, and I know we've all been cooking more because of the pandemic, I'm sure. But if I had to narrow it down, I chose 2, and they were Son of a Southern Chef by Lazarus Lynch. He's a winner of Chopped. And let me just tell you some of the recipes that are in here. Shrimp and crazy creamy cheddar grits, dulce de leche banana pudding, brown butter candy yam mash with goat cheese, really good stuff. I'm from the South originally, so I really love Southern cooking. And this seems like an amazing book for someone who wants to get into more Southern cooking in the kitchen. So that was again, Son of a Southern Chef. And then the other one I recommend, which is new too, is New Native Kitchen. And that one's by Freddie Bitsoy. That one is actually on back order, so I would probably wait till the new year to order it. But it's all about cooking, native recipes that are native to our land in your kitchen. So those are my recs.
Fascinating. Very cool. Okay, now we're on to coworkers. This is a challenging one because every coworker is very different, certainly in my world. Okay, Louisa, what do I get them?
What do you get them? It is a challenge because we don't know what they really like or read. If you have a literary coworker, I like to get little fun gifty books. And nothing is more fun than vicious nonsense, where it's famous writers, little quips and sort of zingers to other famous writers. A famous one that's in here that you may have heard before is Dorothy Parker saying, "This is not a novel to be tossed aside lightly. It should be thrown with great force." Like, these are hysterical. It's super fun. It's very gifty. It's just one per page. It's a wonderful gift for those coworkers that love to read, or maybe they just love making fun of other people, and that's always fun too. But the other one that is gorgeous is this tiny book called The Lost Spells. Robert McFarland a couple years ago had this great book called Lost Words, which were all based on words that were taken out of the children's edition of the Oxford Dictionary, the print edition. And they all had to do with nature, words like dandelion. And he painted these pictures and did these poems. Well, this is the follow-up to that. That was a big, giant book. This is much more givable. And it is poems based on nature. These aren't based, and they're poems based on words that take place in nature. That's the way to describe it. And it is gorgeous. These watercolors, I'm not doing justice to it with my little camera here, but it is beautiful. It is a treasure. It is something for nature lovers. It's something for people who love the English language. It is something for everybody in here. So this is one that I'm going to give a lot of people.
Sherry.
I have Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I just loved this novel. It's 1985 in Ireland, and at Christmas time, and the local coal merchant is making a delivery to the convent in his area and makes a startling discovery that he just can't get out of his head. And this takes place just over a few days, and it is heartwarming and important, and it's a great story. And I think it's a great book for a coworker because if you are not 100% sure if someone's a big reader, this is not that big, and you could read it in an afternoon. And the price point's $20. If it's a gift exchange with a price limit or something, this would hit that. But at the end of it, you're going to put this book down, and the story is going to stay with you. And it's going to, at least for me, it made me start doing some research on the subject of the book that I didn't really know that much about. So that's always fun too, to go down a rabbit hole for something you didn't know about. And I just loved it, and it's a perfect gift.
I love it. Okay, Sarah.
All right. So I asked my bookshop.org colleagues about this question too, and some things that I thought would be great gifts for my colleagues at Bookshop are things geared towards booksellers or artists, which, some of us are musicians, some of us are booksellers, some of us are artists, and one of our colleagues is in art school. So I wanted to do a sort of creative, what to give someone who is a colleague who maybe has some creative outlets. So my two recs would be, first one is Making Stuff and Doing Things by Kyle Bravo. And you'll get all these links. They're actually in the chat right now if you want to check them out. That one's, again, Making Stuff and Doing Things, kind of going off the idea of Elizabeth Gilbert's that humans are, we naturally want to create and make new things, and we're still in a pandemic. So let's make some stuff and let's, get creative. So that one is my first rec. And my second one, which was one of my favorite books last year, is How to Do Nothing, Jenny Odell. Barack Obama loved that one too. And it's basically about getting back in touch with nature, finding peace and solace in being a human and creating and being an artist while also having a full-time job. So those are my two favorites that I would give to any of my colleagues.
I love it. These all sound so great. Okay, next category, fiction fans. People who love the novel stories. Louisa.
There are honestly too many books to talk about. This season has been incredible, and you've probably heard of some of them. You should have heard of some of them, and you should know that they're all as amazing as you hoped. Every single one of these authors. I'm not going to talk about all those because you guys know them already. And if you don't, I know there's links. Most of your stores will have links for these. I believe in the chat they're putting our links with our gift guides, and they were descriptions of those in the books if you click on the books. So I do want to talk though about somebody that you don't know about, and a book that I absolutely loved, that a lot of us really love. If you are an Annie Proulx fan, if you love Anthony Doerr, if you love those kind of writers, this is the writer for you. It's based on a real story about a man named Stockholm Sven, who is a misanthrope, didn't outwardly seem to like people, isolated himself by being a miner, had an accident, which was disfiguring. And so isolated himself even more close to the North Pole. But of course, it's not really about him isolating himself. It's really more about him finding connections with the people that are around him, the families we grow and believe in. And while it sounds very sort of dire, it's actually full of warmth and humor in the way that books can be when people's lives are pared down to the bare necessities. Plus, it has the best dog character of the year, and I think that should count for something out there. This is a wonderful book. It's getting tons of praise. One of my favorite books, and a great book club book because there's tons to discuss in there. It's beautifully written and just an incredible story. So Stockholm Sven.
I love it. And our assistant editor, Jessica Blau, has put that link to Book Passages book gift guide for adults in our chat as well. So check that out. We're going to send everyone links in their email who's attended this event. We'll put it on altaonline.com and share it on social as well. So if you're writing feverishly, don't worry, we got you. Okay, Sherry, fiction.
Still Life by Sarah Winman. I read her first book, Tin Man, and just loved every page. And I thought, okay, this is great. Here's her second book. Let's see. Loved it even more. Everyone who's read it loves it even more. This is Claude the talking parrot on the cover. This is about a group of people after World War II. The story starts in the UK, it moves to Italy. And it's just these people who have created this family, and they take care of each other and love each other over the years. And they're, was someone a spy during the war? Maybe. And who is going to be romantically interlinked with who? And this whole story is set in Tuscany. So for anyone who's in a cold climate right now, you can pretend you're in Tuscany living the fabulous life. But this is so unique, and I love the characters. It took weeks for me to get over my book hangover from having read this, and I can't recommend it enough. And any of your fiction fans out there are gonna fall in love with it.
Oh my God, book hangover. I get it. I've never heard that before. I know exactly what you're talking about. Sarah, fiction.
Yeah, so for me, I would say I'm going to go with short stories. And I would say 5 Tuesdays in Winter, Lily King. I think anything Lily King writes is phenomenal. Writers and Lovers was one of my favorite things I read last year, and this is similarly incredible. I don't admittedly like short stories very much, but Lily can do it. And if you've got a picky writer, maybe a writer who's or a picky fiction reader rather, who's just wanting something really different and exciting and just all encompassing and enrapturing, I would recommend Lily King anything, but especially her newest 5 Tuesdays in Winter.
Okay, we're going to do one more category of person who's probably on your gift list, and then we're going to get to a couple of questions and we'll wrap it up. So our last person we're trying to buy books for is the history buff. What do I get? Which is really my way of saying, what do I get my dad?
It's so true. And there's so many good choices. There's two ways to go. You can go biographies on these great historical figures or broad history. I have two to talk about really fast. The first is Orwell's Roses by Rebecca Solnit. If you've ever read her, you know she's brilliant. And she has a way of discussing something that we think we know in a completely new and different way that opens it up and makes you feel like, oh my God. So this is about somebody that you probably read a lot about lately because people keep referencing his work these last few years, but George Orwell. But she looks at him through the scope of his fascination, his love of gardening and his gardens. Wherever he went, he planted a garden. And so she investigates his life from that point of view. And she also looks at gardening historically and how it impacts workers and people today and how it intersects with what he thought about society. It is fascinating. It's a wonderful new take on Orwell, who I find to be a really interesting person to read about anyway. And I had never, ever read anything like this about him. So a wonderful, wonderful treat. And then for somebody who's looking for more of a broad scope, there can't be anything broader than The Dawn of Everything. Look at that. When I hold this up, it makes my face blue because the camera's trying to adjust. Isn't that funny? This is a reevaluation of how we think of history. Historical documents, generally, we look at people that have fought each other and won. We look at people that were in charge, kings and queens and hierarchies. That's how we write history. Who was in charge? Who was winning? Who was killing somebody else? This reevaluates all of that and says, no, the people that were living quietly, that were hunter-gatherers, that lived in societies that didn't have hierarchical structures, they still had history and they had the important things that were happening. They had armies, they had complex city structures, they had complex lives. And so it's a reevaluation of 45,000 years of history, 45,000 years of history. Everybody's talking about this book. It is a revelation. It is fascinating. And it's something for the history lover in your life that they have never read before.
Okay. Sold. Sherry.
I have All That She Carried by Tia Miles. This is the nonfiction National Book Award winner for this year. And I was so excited when this book was nominated because and when I read it, it really touched me. It's a fascinating and tragic story. It is 1850s South Carolina, and Rose is an enslaved woman whose daughter Ashley is going to be sold away from her. And she gathers a few things, puts them in a sack, and sends it with Ashley. Then they don't see each other again. And then in 1920, Ashley's granddaughter Ruth embroiders on the bag what was included. And then later, many years later, the bag is discovered, and now the history of it is being told by Tia Miles in an expertly written book. It's incredibly researched. And I loved it. And I think for your history buffs, this is a perfect pick. And then, National Book Award winner too. And I highly recommend it.
Wow. Okay. Sarah, take us out with history.
Absolutely. So this is a book I actually am getting my boyfriend, who I hope is not on this call. So we will be getting this later this week. He's a huge history buff and it's really hard to buy for him. And this is for anyone who is really interested in the history of slave trade in the continental US. It's called Lose Your Mother. It's a journey along the Atlantic slave route, and it starts in Ghana and goes to the Atlantic coast. So the author actually went to Ghana, did research there, and then moved to the Atlantic coast, and very, very well researched, really respected author. And I think my boyfriend will like this. I hope he will. And I'm really excited to give it to him. And he, again, is a huge history buff. So I trust, this book, and I think it'll be great for anyone who's interested in that.
Fabulous. All right, those are your book recs. We're a little bit over, but we're going to do a couple of questions. Again, if you have questions for our panelists, please put them in the Q&A. One, Mary asks, what is the book that is impossible to keep in stock this year? It's okay if we've all heard of it and it's wildly popular. It's like the Real Housewives tell-all or whatever. What is the book that you just can't keep in the store or on your?
I would say the Paul McCartney's lyrics were out of that. I wish I had another 100 on the shelf, but I don't.
What about a book passage, Louisa?
We ordered up really big knowing this was coming. So we've been pretty good with everything. I would say the ones that were surprises, The Dawn of Everything was actually a really hard one to get back in. It was a hard one to reprint. So we do have it back in now, but there was a period of time where we could barely get it.
What about Sarah? What's Bookshop? Is anything just particularly wildly popular at bookshop.org this season?
You know, it's pretty much where if things are sold out in the stores, we do have access to all of Ingram's warehouses across the US on Bookshop, but we have seen, more back orders this year than any other year because of the supply chain issues. There's one title in particular that's from NYRB that I'm looking for right now that I've heard everyone on my staff just rave about it, but I forget, I've got to look it up, but it's been flying off the shelves, and I know it's also been flying off the shelves in store. So I'll find that title for you in one.
Okay, while you look that up, last question from me. In the past year, have you noticed any trends? You've all been doing this for a while. In terms of, are people buying different kinds of books because of the pandemic? And are they leaning away from pandemic-y kind of stuff or towards it? And pandemic-y kind of stuff is a very professional term that I invented.
Well, it is the actual official term for it. So you are correct. Pandemic-y type of stuff, people have wanted to escape is what they want. They want something that doesn't make them feel worse than they do right now. But that doesn't necessarily mean not reading about pandemics. They do like dystopian stuff quite a bit. They like being taken to a completely different world, and it can be a world filled with problems and issues. It just can't be like what we are dealing with right now. It can't be depressing. It has to have some sort of something that allows them to escape their own life. I've seen fantasy books fly off the shelf, romance, historical fiction's been huge this year. So those kinds of things, political books way down on the list.
Twist. Sherry, what about romance?
I would agree with Louisa on the fantasy for sure. Cooking, definitely. And for us, this is, I don't suspect it's unique to us, but lots of witchcraft books and tarot decks. Tarot decks are selling like crazy. So I think along with making sourdough bread, people were learning how to read tarot cards. So that's kind of, it was unexpected for me. So if you need to get your cards read, probably someone has learned how to do it, and you could get that taken care of.
Everyone nodded in unison at the witchcraft and tarot. Okay. Fascinating. I had no idea. Sarah, what have you noticed in Bookshop? I mean, Bookshop was really born so much of the pandemic. So I guess did you figure out the title?
I did. It's When We Cease to Understand the World. That's been selling like hotcakes, which is great because it's from a small press too. But I definitely have to agree with what Louisa and Sherry have said. We've seen similar trends of a ton of tarot, a ton of witchcraft, fantasy, romance, tons of romance, especially this holiday season. There's some really cute romance reads that have been selling really well. And then another thing that we've seen that's been kind of the trend on Bookshop since June of 2020 is anti-racist reads, which is really great. So those continue to sell really well on Bookshop as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. I would be remiss if I didn't say, by the way, that Bookshop has raised $18,141,750.95 for local bookstores since the start. And so we actually have a list. We're going to shoot this to you as well. We have a list of 83 books by Alta contributors, people who write for Alta, including the wonderful Linnell George, who I see on this call. We have a collection in Bookshop. If you buy one of those books, you'll receive a discount to join Alta as a member. You get a 30% discount on our $50 annual Alta membership. Alternately, Alta makes a great last minute gift. Go to altaonline.com. If you join by a CBC special membership, a California Book Club special membership, we will send you, in addition to a year of Alta, a tote bag and one of our upcoming book selections. So while all of these books are totally great, you could also give people Alta. With that, again, you guys, this has been such a joy. I can tell you that the Alta team chat has been blowing up with like everyone wanting all of these books. This is so much fun to get to speak with you all. Thank you for your brilliant expertise. Alta Live will be on hiatus next week. We will be back on January 5th talking about a true crime story of Ventura County Jane Doe with investigator Steve Rhodes and Alta contributor Louise Farr. And that will be the new issue of Alta will be out. So please do join us for that. We'll send you links again to all of this. Please, please, please support our independent bookseller partners, especially Book Passage, Vroman's Bookstore in Pasadena, and Book Soup in West Hollywood, and of course, bookshop.org. We are so grateful to everyone. Stay safe. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. Take care.
Thank you, Beth.
Happy holidays.
Thank you so much.